In this episode of the Motor City Hypnotist podcast. Last couple episodes, we talked about bizarre mental disorders.
Yes, we did.
We're going to talk about mental disorders again, but I'm going to talk about obsolete mental disorders, which means things that used to be considered mental disorders, but they've either changed or morphed or gone away totally. They're not even used anymore. So we're going to talk about obsolete mental disorders. And as usual, we give away free stuff, whatever. You get something for free.
Always.
All right, folks, hang in there. We'll be right back.
Get ready for the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright, originating from the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. He has hypnotized thousands of people from all over the United States. David R. Wright has been featured on news outlets all across the country and is the clinical director of an outpatient mental health and hypnosis clinic located just south of Detroit, where he helps people daily using the power of hypnosis. Welcome, the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright.
What is going on, my friends? This is David Wright, the Motor City Hypnotist. We're back with another episode of the Motor City Hypnotist podcast.
Hello, David.
Hello, Matt. That's Matt Fox, the other voice you hear.
It's always me. Man.
It's always you. Well, you know, you're always here. So what can
I
I say?
I
You live here.
Yeah.
You have a pillow and a little bedroll. And
Jamie, my bed's right there.
shout out to Jamie. He's in the house.
Yes, he is.
Yes. So we're here in the podcast Your Voice, Southfield Studios,
Yes.
the Palatial Studios. I haven't called it palatial in a while, but it
Been a few
is.
episodes.
Yeah. We just finished Man Cave Happy Hour podcast. If you're interested, check out Man Cave Happy Hour because we just compared the regular Basil Hayden with the Basil Hayden toast.
Yes. And I went
And they're
back.
both great. I went back to the toast.
I went back to the original.
Did you?
I'm a purist.
Oh, okay.
I like the the original.
Good for you.
And it's
like this in the background. What the fuck is it with
and
you?
I'm still drinking it neat because the ice machine didn't get turned on.
Oh.
So
Oh, good for you.
I'm actually going to add a little bit of water to this.
You go, oh, no, don't do that.
I have to.
No, okay. You have to. You
to work.
have to. You're forced to.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, great Odin's Raven.
No, it was a fun episode.
No,
So
it
thank
was.
you
It
for
was a good
joining
one.
us on
Yes,
that.
absolutely. I always enjoy jumping in.
From the get-go.
Yeah, from the beginning. I didn't
Yes.
jump into the middle of the episode, so
Right.
that's even better. So let me tell you, folks, where you can find me. My website is motorcityhypnotist.com. motorcityhypnotist.com, especially if you're looking for a show in the next 3 weeks, because grad season is upon us. I start Saturday, and I have a run of 22 shows, 21 shows until the middle of June. And there are some nights open, believe it or not. So if you're still looking for a hypnotist for your all-night party, motorcityhypnotist.com shows. You can get your quote online in minutes, do a deposit in minutes, and never have to speak to anybody.
There's going to be a lot of people walking around, showing up at your door going, I heard you have some yard work to do.
It's crazy.
Here, I got my senior picture for you.
I ain't listening to you no more.
Yeah. So yeah, check out the website because again, we're up against it now. So if you're still don't have somebody for your grad night or somebody bailed or whatever the case is, reach out. My social media links, Facebook and YouTube, are both Motor City Hypnotist, and Snapchat and Instagram are Motor City Hypno. That is HYPNO.
Mm-hmm.
And as usual, we always give away a free hypnosis guide. It's a PDF I wrote. It's a general information on what hypnosis is, what it's not, dispels myths and misconceptions. But again, yours for free. Just text the word hypnosis to 313-800-8510.
Perfect.
And if you need that number, check out the show notes or go right to my website. That's the number on the website. You can text it right there.
Thank you.
Fantastic. The most important thing, wherever you're listening, whatever platform you're on, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever, iTunes, there are millions of them. I don't even know anymore. But
Whatever.
wherever it is, connect, like, subscribe, pledge, whatever you have to do on your platform.
Give blood.
And the big thing is leave a review because that's helpful for us as far as just one, that you like the show, and two, if you want to hear us or have a suggestion for something you'd like us to talk about.
Yeah.
Even better.
And the big thing is, those of you listening to the audio, we do a Facebook Live when we record every Monday evening, typically every Monday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes,
so you
sir.
can join us live, participate in the discussion,
Mhm.
ask questions, be a part of the show.
Why not?
Absolutely.
I do it. You can too.
Yeah, you can do it. So that's it. You know what time it is, Matt?
Yes, I do.
That's how winning is done.
I think this is Matt's favorite part of the show, other than our dog rescue dogs.
Yeah. Well, your entire show is my favorite part. But
Oh no! Listen
no,
to that.
this speaks volumes because it's something that's happening in the world that is good.
Yes,
And it's a good feeling. And that's why I look
Yes.
forward to it, because this is how I start off my week, with something pleasurable and gets me through the week. It's
Oh, good for you.
No, that's good. Yeah,
I wanna say
that's
something, but I
Fantastic.
won't.
You can say it.
F you, David.
All
No, I'm
right.
just kidding.
This story comes from Wisconsin.
Oh,
An
okay.
8th grade Wisconsinite is being hailed as a hero after grabbing hold of the wheel of his school bus after the driver lost consciousness.
Wait. Oh, the wheel. It's the drive.
Yeah, the driving wheel,
The
steering wheel.
not
Yes.
not the wheel of the bus.
Yeah, not the actual wheel.
'Cause those
he
go
was,
round.
He was on the bus.
Because they go round.
They go
and
round and round.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
No. No. Don't shut me up.
Yeah, that's good. His heroics have earned him plaudits from the mayor's office, city council, fire and rescue, and the police department. And the young man has said the incident has made him feel more confident.
Okay.
It started when A.C. Holland III boarded his school bus as per his normal routine in April.
8th grader, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He joked with the bus driver for a moment. Then she put on some headphones and the bus rumbled off. Holland, though, told CNN he understood something wasn't right when the driver began to appear dizzy. Soon after, her head dropped, but the bus continued to accelerate past a turn on the route.
All right. So my hand is up.
Yes,
Question. Did the driver put on headphones or did the student put on headphones?
student put on headphones.
Okay. Go on.
Yes. She turned the corner and there's another street that we usually turn on. She pressed the gas and went past the corner and I looked up, Holland said. Coming to the front, he found the driver unresponsive and the bus veering into oncoming traffic.
Wow.
In what he later described as a fight or flight situation, Holland moved the driver aside, took the wheel, and safely parked the bus on the side of the road, calling 911 after it had come to a halt and telling each student to call their parents.
Okay. Took charge.
The driver had suffered a medical emergency and would eventually have to go to receive treatment, CNN reports. At first, Holland's father, A.C. Holland II, wasn't sure if his son was telling the truth. But when it did eventually become clear, Holland Sr. said he wasn't surprised.
Okay.
It's like, believe me the first time, Dad. Come on.
So dad's like, I made you watch
What
that.
in blazes are you talking about?
I made you watch that movie Speed for a reason.
Yeah. I don't think the bus driver was Sandra Bullock, though.
Well, it eventually
I don't know.
became-
Boy.
yeah.
That escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Sorry. Mr. Holland owns a garage, and Holland says it's around the shop that he had grown accustomed to the functions of automobiles enough to feel confident of grabbing the wheel of the bus.
Mm.
The school said that Holland's leadership and compassion is something they witness daily, but that April's incident took it to the next level.
Yeah.
So definitely for AC Holland and the bus driver, definitely winner of the week.
Yes.
Absolutely. Bam.
That's how winning is done.
Yes, it is.
So, back to it.
Man, 8th grade grabs the wheel of the bus, the steering wheel. of the
tells the
bus.
kids, everybody sit down and call your parents.
Yeah.
Like took control of the situation. Like just
that was a total that was a speed move. Okay.
Yeah.
Just saying.
he just jumped in the seat and took over.
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't jump a bridge or anything, but that's okay.
Not that we
Yeah,
know of.
well, I don't know. It's crazy.
I ain't listening to you no more.
Oh, good for him. I'm
Yeah,
happy you shared that.
absolutely.
That's good stuff.
Okay, so today we are talking about obsolete mental disorders. Now, if you remember if you listen to the last couple of episodes, we talked about bizarre mental disorders.
Yeah. So these are
things
obsolete.
that are kind of off the beaten path on those. These are obsolete, things that don't exist anymore. But at one time, these were certified mental disorders from the DSM manual.
Okay. The DSM manual, but you read these off earlier.
Yeah,
And,
I gave you a little sneak peek. Yes.
And I'm like, I don't know. I think I go on.
Think they may still exist. Is that what you mean?
I think they do.
So these are things, and this is true of any other field, any other profession.
Mm-hmm.
Things change as time goes on. They evolve
into something
they
else.
advance, they change, they morph into something different. Same thing with mental health. And I'll give you one quick example. As early in the past as the late 1980s, homosexuality was still in the DSM statistical manual as a diagnosis, as a disorder.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's less than 40 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is surprising.
Okay.
So let's start off. And when we get into these, you'll see why these are obsolete, or maybe why they maybe morphed or changed into something a little bit different. That's more.
I'm sure there's a
more
lot
with today's.
I'm sure there's a lot
thinking.
more diagnoses that are obsolete other than these 10. Is that?
I'm sure that there's a lot, and
Yes.
these are probably the major ones.
Okay, go on.
Male hysteria is the first one. So just to kind of put this in perspective,
Male
hysteria used to be a common diagnosis back in the 1800s.
Okay.
And it typically was with women who had anxiety or nervousness or depression. It was all labeled the same thing as hysteria.
That's going back to the late 1800s, the
early 1900s.
Yeah.
And they would put women away because they were hysterical.
Right. And they would treat them terribly.
Well, sure, because they didn't know at the time, of course. Mm-hmm. Knowledge is power. And then they just assumed this woman's hysterical. We got to lock her up.
Mm-hmm.
But male hysteria, it was defined at the time as nervous symptoms that cannot be attributed to a physical cause. So it's not attributed to a physical disease or some sort of
repeat that first sentence.
Hysteria is a slew of nervous symptoms that cannot be attributed to a physical cause. Meaning there's nothing physiological like high blood pressure or a head injury or things like that.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Despite men being as prone to what we call mental breakdowns as women, back 100 years ago, that was not the belief.
Huh.
The belief was women are just more naturally prone to breaking down as opposed to men. So kind of like men were put, I don't want to say on a pedestal necessarily, but the expectations of them were much higher.
Interesting.
And that's why many men wouldn't come forward and talk about mental health issues back then.
I'm a man.
Yeah, exactly.
I drink dark liquor.
So in the 18th and 19th century Britain, it almost became fashionable for men to have nervous issues. And that's what they called it, nervous issues.
Fashionable? You said fashionable.
Yes, it became kind of fashionable, like for a man to have a nervous disorder.
Okay.
Yeah, which is weird because you wouldn't think that would be something you wanted.
I'm gonna put on my anxiety jacket real quick.
And the big thing is it was always based in class, because typically the higher class gentlemen were more prone to have these nervous issues.
Wow.
Which makes sense, because if you think if they're a higher class, then they made more money, they had more responsibility.
So they had more coming.
They had
at
more
them.
pressure,
Okay.
let's say,
All right.
coming at them. And you're going to recognize the term as soon as I say that. In the earliest 20th century, this diagnosis morphed into what we used to call shell shock.
Oh, wow. Okay, that was World War II.
Yep.
I'm sorry, World War I was shell shock.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the change in the term even just it showed it's a changing perception of what was happening with these men,
Right.
and that it wasn't just nervous issues or it wasn't hysteria. It was actually caused from events in their lives, some serious events.
Yeah.
So this new form of male hysteria was more honorable, I guess, if you want to call it that,
Right.
because they could look at it and say, "Oh yeah, you went through a trauma. This is why this is happening."
Right.
And then shell shock eventually gave way to PTSD.
Right.
Now, and guess when that happened, Matt? Just as I'll just throw it out there.
World War II?
No. PTSD first came in.
Was it after in 91 or 92?
No, earlier than that.
Earlier than that?
Yes.
Vietnam.
After Vietnam.
Well, okay, go on. Tell me.
80s. Early in the 80s, shell shock was changed to PTSD. So even think about that.
Even so shell shock had been around for a long time.
It already always been referred to as shell shock until the early 1980s. And
okay,
that
I thought there was
PTSD.
I thought there was something in between shell shock and PTSD.
No.
Okay.
No.
I thought
it was male hysteria, which morphed into shell shock, which morphed into PTSD.
Right. I thought there was something.
So now PTSD is the actual more accurate descriptive diagnosis for what men go through. And what happened was that over time, PTSD, of course, is how do I put this? It's more acceptable as a population to understand when somebody's going through these issues that, they have PTSD. That makes total sense.
Oh, they were
rather than just saying, you're having male hysteria. Quit being a bitch, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's that because that would have been the view early on, like way back when they called it male hysteria. Right. Yeah.
No, he was shell shocked. He got the Donatello.
Okay, you want to hear the next one? I don't even know if I can say this, and I looked it up and I tried to get the Hooked on Phonics version.
Hook it on phonics.
Dysesthesia Ethiopica.
Gesundheit.
Yes, it's a mouthful. In the mid 1800s, mental health professionals fabricated disorders to justify slavery.
Repeat that?
In the mid 1900s, mental health professionals fabricated disorders to justify slavery.
What the
yeah,
actual
I know that's why I'm saying these are obsolete for a reason. I'm saying. So this disorder, it was defined by mischief caused by, and this is the quote. It's in parentheses.
Okay.
Mischief caused by stupidness of mind and insensibility of the nerves.
You just call me dumb?
Yes, I did.
That's dumb.
You have a brain like a chicken.
That's a perfect drop. Jesus.
So the affected were believed to wander about at night and sleep all day, cause disturbances, and break, waste, and destroy everything that they handled.
Pretty much. Okay, you just described. Okay, go on.
And again, here's a quote, and I want to make sure I'm quoting this because of the word I'm going to say.
Okay.
Doctors also claimed at that time this disease was peculiar to Negroes.
Oh, wow.
That was what they'd stated, and came with physical symptoms in the form of lesions
on the brain. Lesions on the brain, or
it doesn't say where.
Well, that's what the only place I've ever heard of lesions is on the brain.
So back then, sociologists and psychologists, they manufactured this disease to scientifically prove that Black people were incapable of handling freedom.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
I know. It's so the cure for this diagnosis was being a slave.
What the?
That's the cure.
Okay, Miss Daisy.
I'm gonna read this quote. The quacks claim this disorder was more common among free Blacks than those in bondage. The only slaves afflicted were ones who lived lifestyle with diet, drinks, and exercise like their free brethren. Yeah.
Wow. That's that. There's a reason why that's obsolete. And
here's one of the worst quotes of this whole specific one. Those that have not got some white person to direct and take care of them. That's what this diagnosis stated.
I have my hand on my head.
I know
it
is
so
shaking
my head in disbelief.
I know that this is okay. So we're going to say within the last 100 years, this was an issue. This was a belief. So it
wasn't a belief. It was a diagnosis.
Yeah. Yes. And it was fabricated. That's the whole thing, that professionals fabricated this diagnosis to fit a specific criteria.
Culture.
Yes. Yeah.
People.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
they fabricated lies, and it really destroyed so many things for oh my
absolutely.
gosh.
Yeah, I know. It shows you, I mean, how things have evolved. Thank God. I mean, and we're not where we need to be, but
they made
we're
it up.
not we're not here.
They fabricated these things up because they themselves
really, it was a
were
roundabout
racist.
way to keep people enslaved, to
In
keep people in
control,
bondage,
yeah.
to keep people as slaves. Right.
That's just I am really appalled by
Yes.
that.
Oh yeah, me too. Okay, let's move on to something hopefully it's a little lighter. The vapors.
The vapors. Well, I'm getting that right now with this
I
Basil
know that.
Hayden.
I'm getting good vapor right now out of
I'm
my
seeing vapor
out of my
trails,
Basil Hayden
yeah.
toast. It's some pretty good vapors. So this is in the Victorian era.
Okay.
And psychologists claimed that at least a quarter of women suffered from this affliction known as the vapors.
My hand is up.
Yes.
I'm going to go out on a limb.
Yeah.
The vapors, either fainting or hot flashes.
Okay, so let's see. Let's get in and we'll see if you're right, Matt.
All right.
The term was derived from ancient Greek medical theories based on the 4 humors of the body.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what those are.
Neither do I.
But we'll find out. The vapors were caused by an imbalance. Humors in the spleen rose through the body to affect the mind. Women were more likely to catch the disease based on irregularities in their anatomy. Symptoms include anxiety, depression, fainting, tremors, and bloating.
I had the fainting part.
You did. The population most often diagnosed with the vapors were women of an independent mind.
Again, I'm a bit appalled by that. I really am. I'm not laughing. I'm really not.
I mean, I'm laughing, but because it's so ridiculous. Do you know who has a independent mind?
Who's that?
How are you going to wipe a table with this little? It's not even wet.
Yeah,
Right.
she has an independent mind.
She had the vapors when she said that.
You got to take everything off the table. No, you've had your limit today. You drink water.
Oh yeah, I should probably do that.
She had a very independent mind. Yes, that one did.
Yeah, she did.
Given the wide range of symptoms, the diagnosis of the vapors, it often impeded the identification of more serious mental health issues that could be in the midst of that, like depression,
anxiety,
infections, cancer, even.
Yeah.
They misdiagnosed women who had cancer and say they had the vapors because of their symptoms. So in the modern day, unfortunately or fortunately, this didn't progress into anything more than what it was at that time. In fact, it's kind of a folksy term that people often use as a joke, referring back to this time.
Okay.
In fact, Colin Powell used this in a speech one time.
He used
a reference to the vapors.
Did he?
It had been used by Colin Powell and journalists Peggy Noonan and Claire Berlinski to cast opponents in a foolish light.
In a foolish light.
Yeah. So they insulted women saying, oh, they must have the vapors. But this was still even going way back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Okay. And we mentioned this right in the open. Homosexuality.
You did.
Yes. Until the mid 1980s, I was a little off on my math. I thought it was early in the 80s. So we're talking the middle of the 80s.
85, 86.
Homosexuality was considered a mental disorder. By the end of the century, homosexuality shifted from sin and crime to like more of a mental health issue. Not necessarily that people shouldn't be gay, but that there were a lot of issues that go along with being gay, such as being shunned by society, or rejected by parents, or disowned by friends or family, things like that. So beginning in the 70s, the view on homosexuality shifted because of the mounting evidence and because of cultural views. So in 1974, a vote was held to amend homosexuality's place in the DSM manual. That's, for those of you who don't know DSM, it's Diagnostic Statistical Manual. It's where all of the mental health disorders are listed. It's like your Bible of diagnoses.
How many volumes are there now?
We're on volume 5 right now.
Okay.
Yes. And I think in 80 we still would have been on the 3R, I believe, and I'm guessing there. But so by 1980, they had modified it a little bit to call it ego-dystonic homosexuality, which meant that the tendencies were not in line with the person's way of thinking, which makes no sense.
That makes no
Yeah.
that makes no
Yeah,
sense
I
at
know.
all.
Exactly. And many people criticized this decision when they did that in the
Right.
DSM. So by 1986, it was totally removed from the DSM, just eliminated.
What's unfortunate is that it was put in writing into the DSM
Mhm.
originally.
Yep.
Then they retract it, but it's still out there.
But they still, well, yes, but it's still considering that this is in my lifetime. When I was in high school, homosexuality was a diagnosis in the DSM.
Right.
Which is insane to me.
And you said the DSM was like the Bible, right?
Of diagnoses, yes. Yeah.
The actual Bible has not changed.
Right.
But this DSM, which you just consider to be a Bible, can change. And I understand why it can change, but they just bury things that are dumb and make no sense.
Well, and I guess whoever's in charge of that could have said, "Oh yeah, we messed this one up. This should have not." But again, I think it just goes to the progression of society and
evolution.
cultures and evolution of things. And yes, back then, here's the thing: people want a reason when they're scared of something. People want somebody or something to blame.
Yes.
So if you're scared of catching gayness, you probably want somebody to be diagnosed.
Or COVID.
Yeah, or whatever it is.
Or homosexuality.
And that fear comes in.
Yeah. I'm going to catch that from them. No, you won't catch that.
Okay. The next one, dementia praecox.
What'd you call me?
Excuse me?
What'd you call
said
me?
what now?
Like this in the background. What the fuck is it with you?
Yeah, dementia praecox.
It's quite pungent. Stings the nostrils.
I forgot. What did you just say?
Dementia praecox.
I forgot. What did you just say?
I'm not saying it again. In 1893. So again, we're going way back.
Okay.
Emil Kraepelin. The names here are great. Kraepelin.
Stop poo-pooing on this, okay? Go on.
Launched the first attempts to develop a categorization system for mental illness. He divided psychological disorders into just two categories: circular insanity and dementia praecox. Circular insanity was marked by a host of mood disturbances but could not be treated.
Yay!
Dementia praecox was an incurable, irreversible mental deterioration beginning during youth. Some of the symptoms included atrophy of the emotions and shun of the will. The prognosis was hopeless back in 1893.
Wow. They put a lot of thought into that.
Yes.
Nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do.
So professionals gave this label really to all like anything with a bad prognosis, I guess.
Okay.
And in the late 1920s, this diagnosis fell out of favor. What happened was Eugene Bleuler, who was another doctor, came up with the term schizophrenia.
Okay.
So you see where this is going.
I do.
And it became the preferred diagnosis for what we call inexplicable madness.
And that's a diagnosis today.
Yes, schizophrenia. Yes.
Schizophrenia. Inexplicable
The
madness.
difference between schizophrenia and the what they call dementia praecox is that the dementia diagnosis at the time they said was hopeless. There's no chance for any kind of treatment.
There's no
or cure or nothing. But with schizophrenia, we now know that with medication and therapy, that can be managed and people can lead functional, normal lives.
That's tough to follow because they call it dementia.
Right.
Precox.
Yep.
Dementia is, we don't have a cure for dementia yet.
Yeah, because physiological dementia, there is no fixing it. There is no reversing it.
But it has this diagnosis that from 1893 turned into schizophrenia.
Yes.
Just because of how they determined it to be.
So dementia praecox disappeared from the DSM in 1952.
Okay.
And since that time
has been schizophrenia.
We've looked at it as schizophrenia.
Interesting.
Yes. So, folks, we have some more. We're not done. I have more obsolete diagnoses. These are very interesting. They're sad at the same time. But the thing that I want to kind of focus on is that it shows that we have moved on as a society, that we have evolved, and things have changed, and we recognize things more accurately for what they really are.
Well, in today's terms,
right,
we consider them to be more accurate. I'm curious, 20 years
well,
from
see,
now,
and that's a great point, Matt, because that's in my head that, okay, in 40 years, our diagnosis we're looking at today going to be different or eliminated because they found what the real thing is.
If things from the 1980s have changed that drastically, I can only imagine what the next 10 years are going to look like.
Right. Well, and I know with the DSM, there have been a lot of changes. I mean, one of the specific ones is there was a whole change in the way they diagnosed autism in children.
Yeah.
And it's very, it's very organized now. It used to be a mishmash of all these different things in different categories, and you kind of had to find it. But things, like I said, things evolve, things change, and we get smarter, hopefully, and not dumber. But we're gonna come back next episode, and we're gonna finish up obsolete
diagnoses,
mental disorders.
All right. So tell me, who are we gonna save this week?
I'll tell you who we're gonna save.
Okay, please.
Our first. Well, for this episode, our dog of the day is Millie.
Millie
is a Schnauzer mix. She was born April of 2023, so just about a year old.
Okay.
15 pounds.
Okay.
Small little thing. Dog friendly, yes, it's a female. Cat friendly, unknown. Kid friendly, older than 8.
Okay.
Here's Millie.
Aw. You know, I would expect to see them in a Stranger Things episode.
Yes.
Millie.
I wonder if their family's last name is Brown.
Oh, right. Every time I
take a look at Millie.
Yeah. No, she's got just the black face and the white.
Yeah, the white body. It's so weird, isn't it?
It is very weird. She's like, you'll see her coming, but not
right.
You won't see the white of her eyes. Wow, she's adorable.
Yeah, isn't she?
Yeah. Aww.
So Millie, DetroitDogRescue.com. Adopt. Millie needs a home. Look at that face. You cannot leave her. Come on.
Yep.
She needs someplace. She needs somebody to play with and to snuggle with.
Do it.
Millie.
Save
DetroitDogRescue.com. Adopt. Alrighty, folks. That is it for today's episode. Those of you on Facebook Live, stick around. We're recording one more episode. Those of you listening to whatever platform you're on, you can skip ahead to the next episode or wait for it to drop the next Tuesday or Thursday. In the meantime, change your thinking, change your life, laugh hard, run fast, be kind. We'll see you next time. Oh, there's only one bottle of water. Slacking on my podcast. I think we got a slacker here.
They heard you.
I know. The Facebook people heard me.
They did.
They're okay, though. They know what I sound like.
All right, you ready?
Ready.
Not that.
In this episode of the Motor City Hypnotist podcast, we're finishing up our two-parter on obsolete mental disorders. These are mental disorders that no longer exist. Many of them have morphed into more reasonable diagnoses as far as our day and time. And again, if you think about the 1800s and medical practices back then, they're pretty archaic and pretty brutal. And now we see it as barbaric. But at the time, that's what you knew. And the same thing with mental disorders. So we're going to finish up for the rest of our obsolete mental health disorders. And as usual, we're giving away free stuff. Hang in there, folks. We'll be right back.
Get ready for the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright, originating from the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. He has hypnotized thousands of people from all over the United States. David R. Wright has been featured on news outlets all across the country and is the clinical director of an outpatient mental health and hypnosis clinic located just south of Detroit. where he helps people daily using the power of hypnosis. Welcome, the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright.
What is going on, my friends? This is David Wright, the Motor City Hypnotist, and we are back with another episode of the Motor City Hypnotist podcast.
Hello, David.
Hello, Matt Fox. That's the other voice you hear here in the palatial podcaster voice, Southfield Studios.
It's the blue light special.
It is. We have the mood lighting going. It's all nice, Matt.
Yeah.
Having a drink. It's like we're on a date or something. I don't know. It's crazy.
Doesn't that happen every Monday?
What are you people? On dope?
Are we dating now?
No, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
What the fuck?
So let me tell you, folks, where you can find me. My website is motorcityhypnotist.com. If you're in need of a late night, grad night hypnotist, go there now because dates are filling up. My schedule starts on Saturday and goes through, but I do have open dates. So, if you have somebody you're not sure about or you just want somebody good, motorcityhypnotist.com shows. You can book your show. You can get a quote. You can book it. You can pay your deposit all online within a matter of minutes.
Come on.
And I will be there at whatever time your grad night is, whether it's 1 a.m. or 4 a.m. And I have all of those. So my social media, Facebook and YouTube are both Motor City Hypnotist, and on Snapchat and Instagram, both Motor City Hypno. That's HYPNO.
Yes.
And as usual, every episode, going back to number 1, we give away a free hypnosis guide. It's a PDF that I wrote. Just kind of explains what hypnosis is, what it's not. Just a basic outline of why hypnosis works and why it's so effective. You can get that by texting the word hypnosis to 313-800-8510. And if you need that number, you can check the show notes or just go right to my website. That is the phone number on the website. You can text hypnosis directly to that number.
Love it.
Also, wherever you're listening, whatever platform you're on, whatever you're at, connect, like, subscribe, and leave a review because a review is important. And plus, reviews help us to kind of listen to our audience, things that maybe you want to talk about or have questions about or a subject matter that you'd like us to address.
There's so many things out there that people want to learn more about. And if you have that opinion, you want to learn about something,
absolutely.
Or join us in a discussion on a Facebook Live at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Mondays.
Yes.
Chime in and, we'll definitely have a conversation.
Absolutely. I'd like nothing better than somebody say, hey, talk about this on an episode. Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah. So let me know if it's something specific that you want to, you want to hear about. The other thing too is go back, look on your platform, go back because we're at episode 268. I think this is.
There's a few.
So we've covered a lot of ground over the last 3 years or so. So, you may find one there that might answer some of your questions. But again, if it's something you want us to talk about, let me know. You can reach out on Facebook or directly as far as leaving a review on your podcast platform.
Okay.
All righty. It is time.
Is it? Okay.
It is.
Here we go.
That's how winning is done.
All right. This story comes from Lebanon, Connecticut.
Okay.
A trio of horses were walking from a pasture to a barn through swampy woods in Lebanon, Connecticut, about 25 miles southeast of Hartford.
How many horses?
A
trio.
3.
Okay. All right.
When they become mired in the muck.
Stuck in the mud. Okay.
Yep. Workers were able to walk one horse out, but suction trapped the other 2, according to a Facebook posting by Stirrup Fun Stables Rescue, Inc.
You know what just went through my head?
No, what?
Falcor!
The more you try to get yourself out and you can't, you kind of just get yourself deeper in, Lebanon Volunteer Fire Department Chief Jay Shaw said Sunday. And that's basically what happened to 2 of the horses. They were just really stuck. Firefighters who responded to the call Saturday afternoon found the horses partially on their sides with their legs buried in mud.
Oh, wow.
Here's a picture, Matt, if you want to see
a
picture. I'm going to put it up here.
Oh wow, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They were just about knee deep.
Yeah, and I'm no horse expert, but I don't think horses should be lying down for long lengths of time.
No, they well,
I don't know, but
they do sleep laying down, but I don't think they sleep like that.
okay. Yeah.
Man, and again, the never ending story went through my head because of the scene with Artex.
Right. Yeah.
Go on.
Okay. Dozens of rescuers worked to clear a path and to position sleds under the horses so they could be pulled out. The horses were free by Saturday evening. Both horses had been warmed up enough to stand, and we are happy to report both got up without issue.
Good.
And are happily eating some fresh hay.
Good.
The fire department posted on Facebook.
As a former equestrian,
yep,
I love.
Well,
horses.
I knew that you knew about horses,
Yes.
so that's why I knew this would be a story you would
You're
resonate with.
You're hitting a nerve, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they're safe and that they got them out of the mud because, like a lot of people in my age range, when they saw Artex go down, they were scarred for life.
Yep.
And I'm glad that these horses survived.
Yes, absolutely. So shout out to the fire department in Lebanon, Connecticut, and all the volunteers who came out. Like they said, they had dozens of rescuers come out to try to help.
That's great.
So
I love that.
Yep, and the horses were fine.
Yay.
They were saved.
Fantastic.
Definitely winner of the week.
That's how winning is done.
When was the last time you actually watched that movie, Never Ending Story? How long has it been?
Gotta be 20 years.
Yeah, go back to it.
It's a long time.
You go back to it.
Okay.
Because all of your life experiences that you've had since the last time you saw it,
will probably
resonate.
Yes. I could see that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about things now. We're going to talk about things then.
Yes. Obsolete mental disorders or diagnoses.
All right.
Yes.
Nice.
So just on last episode, I think we ended up with dementia precox. I think that's the one we ended on.
Would you call me?
Yes, right. Our next one is lunacy. Just lunacy. That's the diagnosis.
Lunacy.
Yes.
Lunacy. Okay.
So for millennia, and this is just an example of how superstitions and beliefs play into mental health, or at least did at some point in our past.
Go on.
Because for millennia, people thought a full moon meant that it made people crazy.
Oh, they turned into werewolves.
Right. Yeah. So here's a quote from Aristotle.
Okay.
It's Mr. Smart Guy.
I ain't listening to you no more.
So I don't even know how to say this. I'm just going to read the quote. Okay. Aristotle claimed that the brain was the moistest organ.
You said moistest.
Moistest, yes. I didn't even know that was a word, but apparently it is.
I know how to spell it, unfortunately, but go on.
The brain was the moistest organ and therefore the most susceptible to the tidal influences.
Okay.
Meaning the moon and the tides and the earth and yes. This lunacy effect, quote, remained popular in the Western world throughout the Middle Ages.
Wow.
Many still cling to the belief that full moons causes erratic behavior in people. That's kind of a given thing. If you talk about nurses, law enforcement, people that work out in the public.
How often have you heard someone say, God, it must be a full moon out tonight?
Well, yeah, that fallacy still exists. It still lives with us.
It's just funny that this is obsolete because there's so many references to that.
So people, again, they still subscribe to that thing that there's more homicides or suicides or traffic accidents and all those things there's a full moon. Here's the thing though. There's no evidence to support that.
Zero. There's
no data that says during full moons, there's more of this, and this. It doesn't exist. So really that is just a kind of a myth that's been perpetuated for hundreds of years.
I wonder what the data would look like with a solar eclipse.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, it could be that right. But think of how many stories use that, like the solar eclipse as a defining event or something that happens where it just sends somebody off the edge or somebody gets killed during the eclipse, or there's tons of stories that,
or something
incorporate
just
that.
The entire earth is going to be destroyed because of said solar eclipse or what have you.
So again, there's no evidence to support this. In fact, the gravitational influences of the moon, it's pretty much the same across all the moon phases. There's no drastic difference as far as tides or anything like that.
Tide comes in, tide comes out. Tide comes in.
So the only thing that they could use to support this was prior to the invention of electrical lights, that full moons may have led to sleep deprivation because of
because of the
being too much light.
It was brighter outside.
Yes, because it was brighter outside than it would be, and that could the story says that could be a trigger to somebody who may be suffering from schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. But it wasn't directly caused by the moon.
That's just strange.
Or influences like that.
So lunacy.
So lunacy is just,
it's out there.
Yeah, it's out there. The next one, neurasthenia.
Bless you.
Neurasthenia. In 1869, physician George Miller Beard developed a diagnostic profile for a mental disorder that appeared custom designed for America's leading families. Okay. The symptoms of neurasthenia or nervous exhaustion included migraines, fatigue, depression, and digestive problems. Beard saw this American nervousness issue as a result of a fast-paced urban lifestyle.
Sounds like GERD and insomnia to me.
The cure to this was to flee the city.
Move to the country. It's quieter.
And here's how weird this is, because women had different recommendations than men for this diagnosis.
Okay.
Women were encouraged to rest, while men were encouraged to engage in vigorous activities in the outdoors to cure this neurasthenia.
Okay.
So by the early 20th century, this specific disorder became kind of a status symbol, kind of spread from the elite down. It was even called American nervousness when it spread to other countries like China, Europe, and Japan.
Okay.
They called it American nervousness.
Neurasthenia.
Yep. Neurasthenia. The stigma of this disorder was removed by the reassurance that this was physical in nature and not a mental issue.
Okay.
By 1930, neurasthenia virtually disappeared from psychology. Some of the symptoms still exist today in things such as clinical depression and chronic fatigue syndrome. Again, things that have evolved where we now have more knowledge, we can understand it.
Migraines was in there as well.
Yeah.
Headaches.
Yeah.
Get up and
Or
do
lunacy.
something. Just get up.
No, that's neurasthenia.
That was neurasthenia. Yeah.
Neurasthenia.
Yeah. Just get up and do something.
Next.
No matter who you are.
This is a great one.
All right.
Next, moral insanity.
This podcast is moral insanity.
I don't know what we're yelling about.
That's an obsolete diagnosis.
Maybe they had too much coffee.
Coffee makes me a mite nervous when I drink it.
Moral insanity.
Moral insanity, first described in 1835 by physician J.C. Pritchard. Moral insanity is a disease of the conscience. Okay. It's defined by a morbid perversion of emotions, habits, and impulses without any defect of intellect or reasoning. I know that's kind of a weird way to say it, but
sounds like jacking off to Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, it just doesn't go together.
It doesn't go together. No.
What?
Clean out your desk. You're gone.
You can thank the dollop for that, or the pastimes. You can thank the pastimes for that comment. Yes.
So it continued to be a diagnosis until 1881, when it was used in a famous trial, trial of Charles Guiteau, who assassinated President James Garfield. One physician claimed the assassin suffered from this bygone disorder. Another labeled Guiteau an imbecile. In 1888, psychopathic inferiority began being used in place of moral insanity. It's still not great.
It's still not great.
No, it's still not great. So here's what this is considered. Most professionals nowadays would consider moral insanity the front runner or like the forerunner of personality disorders, like antisocial personality disorder.
Okay.
So that's where it ended up.
Huh.
And even with that, some experts differ on if that is even applicable now.
It sounds like the two current running mates that are out there there's so much moral
nothing.
There's moral insanity running rampant. I'm telling you, It doesn't matter who you vote for.
This one, just the title of this one makes me laugh. It's not funny, but it can be.
The next one?
Yes, this one. Inadequate personality disorder.
Inadequate personality disorder. I'm just not good.
Matt, are you inadequate?
Oh, da-da, like this in the background. What the fuck is
I'm
it
going to
with
answer
you?
that truthfully. No. Absolutely not.
Inadequate personality disorder sufferers exhibit poor judgment, social instability, and lack of physical and emotional stamina.
Well, now that you say that, I'm just kidding.
So in general, these people are poorly adapted to function in their environments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, go on.
So in general, patients who were diagnosed with this have like a dim or non-existent view of themselves and their own self-esteem, if that makes sense. So most of the sufferers from this could not be self-sufficient. Like they had a hard time being on their own. And in most cases were dependent on friends or family members to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
So this disorder was dropped totally from the DSM in 1980. Again, in my lifetime.
Yeah, mine too.
Yes. So inadequate personality disorder still existed in 1980. So here's the thing. There's strong evidence based on this diagnosis that links this disorder with a frontal lobe syndrome. Now, say what that is. But this comes from a 1848 incident while railroad foreman Phineas Gage took a spike to the front of his skull.
Okay.
His personality rapidly changed, become childish, erratic, and irresponsible.
Because he had a rod into his brain.
He ended his days as a circus sideshow performer. That's what he had to resort to after this injury. So frontal lobotomies, which they used to use with violent felons or violent psychiatric patients, this also resulted in the same type of behaviors.
Or hysteria.
So the big thing with this, and when we're talking about frontal lobe syndrome, and I'm not going to get too scientific on this, but in your brain, there's a frontal lobe. And I did, when I was in grad school, I worked for a head injury facility. People who are like you and me, like right now, normal, somewhat. People may argue about that.
You just talk about yourself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy.
I ain't listening to you no more.
But people like us who've been in an accident and now their function is affected. And typically with frontal lobe injuries, there's a loss of control and emotional and physical control of their emotions. They tend to be very short fused. They tend to be sad over the littlest thing. It's just it's a much harsher emotional response than would typically be for a normal person. So that's where inadequate personality disorder. So really right now, the way this one has evolved, it's now really, unless there's an injury, this doesn't really apply.
Sure.
Unless you have that frontal lobe injury. So we're down. I think we're down to our last one.
Okay.
So this one is a little bit timely as far as our society goes. Gender identity disorder.
That's obsolete.
That's obsolete. So in 2012, so fairly recent, in the last 12 years, the DSM removed gender identity disorder.
And now it's called.
So because what happened was this diagnosis meant that transgender people were considered mentally ill.
Right.
So this had a long history of causing stigma against people, and especially with gender rights activists. But by removing this category
from the DSR.
Yes, from the DSM.
DSM, thank you.
There's no longer any pathological thinking attached to that, if that makes sense. So gender identity disorder was replaced with gender dysphoria. That's the new diagnosis. That's the current diagnosis in the DSM.
Okay.
The DSM-5 right now.
So it's still
so this
a
new categorization.
diagnosis.
It focuses really on people who are distressed by their gender identity, that they're having emotions or issues or difficulties adapting to their identity.
They're trying to figure out who
they are. Exactly. And that's really where this diagnosis differs from the prior one, that it's a mental illness, but now it's the associated things that you go through that are the issues.
When you say the associated things you go through, that means life experiences.
Well, life experiences, being bullied or being criticized or not knowing, not being able to identify, as far as, because a lot of people with gender dysphoria, they're confused. A lot of times it's not, oh, I'm this or I'm this. Sometimes they don't know. They just know something's not right. And that's where that's where we have difficulty, as far as when I see people who have gender dysphoria, when I see them in my office, a lot of times they don't know that it's not like they're a woman saying I want to be a man, or a man saying I want to be a woman. They're just very confused about who they are. They just can't nail it down.
In this time of our evolutionary development as human beings, we are born either with either genitalia, right?
Yes.
In this point of evolution.
Right.
So are you telling me hundreds of years from now, we may not be born with genitalia because of...
it's hard to say. I don't think so, because we've had, thousands of years of evolution to look at.
But this has not been a thing. And now the way that our brains are chemically altered by the way we think and what have you, in our life experiences, are we going to evolve in a certain way?
Well, and here's the problem with evolution as far as thinking goes, because even for us, this is still something that a lot of us struggle with, as far as me as a therapist with my clients, and then people who are going through this. So this is how recent. In the 1990s, there was the Americans with Disability Act was passed. This is included in that, gender dysphoria. However, it was grouped in the category with pedophiles.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was in 1990. Right. So again, fairly recent as far as,
I'm going to go out on a limb. Was that the Clinton administration?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I'm just saying. Yes, it is good that they were included in the Americans with Disability Acts, but to be grouped in with the pedos, that's a little bit,
that's a bit off.
Yeah.
Like this in the background. What the fuck is it with you?
And kids, teenagers these days, their environment really does affect who they want to become. And if they're confused and their environment does not support that, they're going to have even more issues trying to figure out who they are.
Well, and I think there is, and I've brought this up on this show, and at some point I with all my other great ideas that I never do, this is one that I'm just going to have a great idea. I'm probably never do anything with it, but I'd like to get data on adolescents who are in therapy for self-esteem issues. And how, because I have noticed, and this is anecdotal because I don't have data. I can just tell you, I've seen a lot of adolescents, especially females, that kind of see it as a badge of honor to have a mental illness. They all talk to their friends about their therapists. They all talk about their issues with their friends. They post their problems on social media. And it's kind of this attention-seeking behavior. Now, I'm not saying you're not dealing with issues, but we weren't able to do this 40 years ago.
Right.
Or even further back, and mental illness wasn't seen as like some badge of honor. It was seen as something like, this is serious. We need to do something. And I do see that there's, and I think, and I'm not grouping everybody, I'm not generalizing, but I think a lot of adolescents who are confused because, like you said, they're subjected to media, to friends, to information online, you can access anything right now. And I think it skews people's thinking.
It's really the level of conscientiousness that the parents have of their child, where they're like, yes, I support my kid, or you know what? The teachers are going to handle this for me.
Well, yeah. I mean,
because they depend on.
And we know that happens. I mean, again, I've seen a lot of teachers in my time doing therapy, and that is the big problem. Is that most of the time the kids are fine. It's dealing with the parents that sucks.
Point.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this topic, this disorder, this obsolete, it's so new as not a disorder,
right?
It's still very relevant in our society.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that it has changed and it has gained a little bit more, let me say, respect or acceptance. The fact that it's still grouped in with a pedophile group is just disturbing.
That needs to get changed. I don't care what administration's in office.
I know.
That needs to get changed.
Yeah. Americans with Disabilities Act. I wonder, just for the heck of it, just do a quick. I want to see when that was. Who was?
I said Clinton administration, so it may have been the Bush administration. I'm just kibitzing here while you're looking.
And I know that they don't have a lot. Sometimes when they pass something, it gets
convoluted
when people make changes, or, oh no, we got to include this in there. If we're going to vote for this, we want this, this, and this. So
right. You might have a tough time.
I'm just trying to look at the date.
Just which administration passed. Man,
it was in 1990, 101st Congress. And a Democrat from Iowa.
Okay.
And signed by George H.W. Bush on July 26, 1990.
There it is.
Yep.
That was the Bush administration.
Yep. So, I mean, overall, I think it's a good act. Americans with Disabilities
just the way
Act
that
is
it got,
fantastic.
Just the way,
but yeah, how they group this, and I'm sure it would be. I would think it would be different now. But
there are a lot of other issues on the table that our Americas that are dealing with, and our world is dealing with right now. I'm sure this is not up there.
Yeah, I'm sure this is not in the forefront of people's minds. Yeah.
But still, it needs to be. Somebody, a constituent, has to come in and say, this has to get looked at.
And honestly, I didn't know this until I did research for this show. I didn't know this grouping was there, and most people probably wouldn't. And that's the whole thing. If you don't know, nobody's going to change it because they don't know any better. So anyway, folks, that is the obsolete mental diagnoses.
Not all of them.
Some of them morphed into something new, but the way we read them, they're obsolete.
Yes.
Some became other things morphed into something that's a little bit more patient friendly, if you want to call it that.
That's fair.
Rather than saying, hey, you're a lunatic. I mean,
I've got lunacy.
I'm loony.
Did you see?
Crazy.
All right. So I've referred to it as the Aurora Borealis.
Yeah.
Did you see
the Northern Lights?
Yes.
Yeah.
Every time I say the Aurora Borealis, everyone says, you mean the Northern Lights? It's called the Aurora Borealis.
That's the name of it.
Yes.
Yes.
It's as called the Northern Light. That's like Prince, the artist formerly known as. But they're called the Aurora Borealis. You mean the Northern Lights? Why don't you just make it simple? No,
because that's what it's called.
It's called.
I will tell you, you know some of my history, but in high school and college, I worked up north at a summer camp up in the Upper Peninsula, just south of Sault Ste. Marie. So every summer, every night, we would see the Northern Lights. Nice. It was like we were spoiled.
You mean the Aurora Borealis?
The Aurora Borealis, yes. Borealis. Yes.
That's why it's the Northern Lights, because it's a lot easier to say.
It is easier to say. Yeah. But I get to enjoy those almost every single night, every summer for 6-7 years.
That's great.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, they're beautiful. You see them in Alaska?
Oh, that would be crazy.
Oh yeah. Go on.
Okay. So that, folks, is our show as far as obsolete mental health diagnoses.
Perfect.
Before we leave, somebody needs your help.
Who's that?
Lyric.
Who?
Lyric.
A Cadillac?
Is a schnauzer.
Oh,
female,
it's a dog. Okay.
15 pounds. Born in 2020, so probably 3 to 4 years old.
You said
somewhere
Lyric.
in there.
I thought you meant the Cadillac Lyric.
No, Lyric.
Okay.
Lyric needs a home.
Oh, look at you.
Lyric.
He's adorable. Really, let me make that really big for you.
You want to make that? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just do that. There you go.
Oh, look at that face.
Come on. How old is
Lyric? 4. Give or take.
Okay.
3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Born in 2020. Doesn't give a month or date or anything, but 15 pounds.
Medium.
Activity levels low.
Low?
Yeah.
It's like a lap dog.
Yeah. She just wants to be held and loved.
Okay.
DetroitDogRescue.com.
Put her in your bag.
Lyric needs a home.
All right.
Get her today.
Please.
Awesome. All righty, folks. That is our show. As Matt said earlier, and as I've said in prior episodes, we're on typically every Monday night from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
8 a.m.?
8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern
you.
Standard Time.
Don't get me here
If you want to join us on Facebook Live, you can be a part of the show, ask questions, interject, do all that fun stuff. In the meantime, change your thinking, change your life, laugh hard, run fast, be kind. We'll see you next time.